Hey there everyone, it's Louis here and it's my mission to aid your awakening. And in today's video I'm going to share with you the most important technique really you need in accelerating and going anywhere in terms of your awakening, and a technique that you need to carry with you and you'll use for the rest of your life. And that is the important technique of surrender. Some people call it the art of surrender, and surrender in a spiritual sense and in the sense of self, surrender over ego. And surrender is the thing that's helped me the most of all the techniques, of all the activities I did, of all the mindsets I tried to have. It's probably the single most important technique. And I feel like in a lot of what I've seen in terms of spiritual content, there's not that much mention of surrender. You hear a lot about letting go. Letting go is something that's really common, you hear all the time. You gotta let go of this care. But really, it's very unspecific as to what letting go actually, like how you actually achieve letting go. People are like, what do you mean? Like, let go of what? I mean, I was one of them people when I was suffering immensely in the first few years of my awakening. I was always thinking, how do I let go? Like, let go of what? Let go. And it eventually got to the point where I was just felt like I was letting go a lot and I was getting worried about letting go. But later on I discovered that was just a part of this overall act and the overall art that I was doing called surrender. And surrender, it's just, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why it's so important. But a lot of you who are watching this video right now, and especially you that are suffering with this awakening process, and really, your whole life's turned upside down. You don't really know what's going on. You're changing, but you're not sure if it's if the change is good necessarily, because it's a long game, guys. You've got to wait a long time before you start seeing the real benefits, and you start embodying like the state of freedom, the state of just grace and ease and effortlessness that this awakening gives you. But one way in which you can get to that straight away, one way in which you can really bypass a lot of suffering, and I wish I knew about earlier on, and I wish, first of all, that I knew I was going through an awakening and I was just going crazy or going through some weird breakdown of my life and reality. But another thing I really wish I'd known is that just how to surrender, how easy it is, and well, it's not necessarily easy, it's scary at first, but how easy it is looking back, and how you can really do so much inner work purely by surrendering. So guys, the first thing I'm going to say about surrender is that your awakening might have, well, it definitely has, I can guarantee that it's brought up a lot of stuff from your past, a lot of negative emotions, a lot of strange trauma that you never knew you were carrying. And your reality may be bleak for a certain amount of time. Those who've been going through it for a long amount of time may have passed this stage. But in the early stages, it's very difficult. You're going through something that's completely uprooted everything that you're used to on this planet. It's almost like change flips your reality on its head. So as a result of that, you're dealing with a lot of things that's there, and you don't know what to do. And I didn't really know what to do. But as a result of all this negative things that's now coming into your reality, and the negative aspects of yourself you were never aware of, with this greater awareness of all the good but also all the bad, you're going to be likely in a state of resistance. And that's completely normal and completely understandable, because because something is incredibly powerful is happening to you. And it's happening to us because it's something that never ends. It's a process that never ends, but we learn to live with it far, far better and thrive with it. But you're likely in a state of resistance. Now the problem about being in resistance is that whatever you resist only becomes stronger in your reality. There's a common phrase, resistance makes stronger. And that's true of whatever happens to be you're resisting. For me, I was resisting the changes that were taking place. I was resisting the different feelings and emotions I was undergoing in my body. The feeling of being worried, feeling very lightweight and ungrounded and anxious. And that's fine to feel that way, but I didn't think it was fine. And I was resisting it so much. I was feeling bad. I was angry at myself for feeling that way because I thought I wasn't like that type of person. I didn't like the idea that I was an anxious person. And when I was full of anxiety and scared to even leave my house at certain points, I was just in a state of resistance. Now, if I'd have known then that I could just surrender to the feeling and soon the feeling would pass, it would make everything so much easier. But guys, you only have 2 choices in whatever situation you're in. And I do feel and I empathise with anyone that's going through a hard time at the moment. But at the day, you've got to look at it as in you can either resist or go with it. And go with it sounds really simple, and it isn't. But it's as simple as doing something called surrendering, which just means removing resistance to it. And that means going into your body and finding where you're tense, where you're resisting feelings, breathe through it, and just surrender to the problem. If you're fighting fear, it's going to get you nowhere. If you're fighting being anxious, if you're fighting a bad feeling, it's only going to make the feeling worse. I think of it as in like, if something swings and you're punching at it, it's only going to swing back more powerfully. But if you stop punching at it, it'll eventually, like that boxing thing, people punch, it swings back. If you eventually just leave it alone, it will just go back to equilibrium and stop. And that's basically what resistance is, guys. The more you're pounding away at it and the more you're resisting it, fearing it, the more powerfully it becomes in your reality, because you're drawing it to yourself. If you're fearing something or you're fighting a feeling, the feeling's just gonna come back and you'll be distracted from not being able to think clearly, and it can completely mess you up. So, guys, whatever you're feeling right now, just tell yourself it's okay. There's got to be, before you can surrender, you've got to come to a level of self-acceptance, where whatever you're feeling, be it depression, anxiety, any other mental health, what they call a mental health illness, whatever mental condition you're dealing with, just find it in you to say, what I'm feeling is fine. Stop the resistance, first of all. You've got to stop the war before we can make peace. Make peace with it, and then surrender to it. That's the two-step thing. Because first of all, you've got to make peace. So first of all, you've got to stop fighting it. That it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be anxious. And believe me, guys, it's absolutely fine to be anxious, because this is a very unsettling thing. It is literally unsettling. So it's fine to feel that way. But the next stage is then also just letting it come. It's like when you're fighting a war, you've got to stop fighting first and then let the enemy surrender to the enemy. Because once you surrender, then it passes. We don't realize that. Your higher self realizes it, but you don't, in your little fight, struggling against it, doesn't realize that once you surrender to it, you haven't lost to it. It simply goes through. It's all just a phase, guys. It's all just a process. It passes through. So just like when you're in your meditation practice, when you're feeling something, a bad feeling, you don't stop the meditation and think, oh, I feel bad, I don't fancy it today. No, you sit with it and you surrender to it. You said, it's okay. Yeah, I am scared. I am scared. I am scared. I'm scared. And I'm going to let the fear come. The fear can do whatever it wants to me. I surrender to it. And before you know it, the fear passes. And it's gone. And it's not with you anymore. It's like you feel anxious. Yeah, I feel anxious. Feel anxious. Feel anxious. Anxiety, the anxiety is one. It's one. Do what you want, anxiety. And it passes. And this enables joy to come into your system, which brings me on the next point. Not only will it stop these emotions from having any power of you, because you're resisting, so you're letting it come. Once the resistance goes, it has no power. Once you are non-resistant to something, it has no power of you. Once you don't care whether it happens, it just won't happen. Once you get on stage and you don't care about being nervous, you're not going to be nervous. Or even if you do get nervous, you're open to the idea. You're accepting of it. I don't mind if I get nervous. And you won't be nervous. It's only your resistance to that thing that gives it power. So guys, by surrendering to it, you may feel like you're losing power, but you're actually gaining power over that thing you're scared of. So that brings me on to the next point, that this awakening process is streamlining, simplifying, making your life easier. I know a lot of you are thinking right now, oh my God, my life is so much more stressful. What the hell? This is the biggest uprooting of my existence. This is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. Yes, it has to be like that for a time. In fact, the harder it is at first, the easier it will be later on. Which also brings you back to surrender, because if you accept it's happening to you, and you accept that it's going to make you better, it's going to improve you as a person, it's going to grow you spiritually, physically, mentally, then there's no resistance to it. And when it does come, it's nothing. It may be, you know, some tension for a day, or it may be, you know, a glum day or two, or it may be a slightly harder week than most. But it doesn't leave you like it left me at first, because I was so resistant to it, in bed for most, struggling to get out of bed and go to lectures when I was at university, struggling to even hold a conversation with someone, anxious for even paying for an item at the shop. If I hadn't have learnt the art of surrender, I'd still be scared to get out of bed each morning. I'd still be scared to leave my house every day. The art of surrender is helping you. The more you surrender to it, yield to it, just like you've got to yield to this process for it to work for you. You've got to enable it to work for you. So the more you surrender, yield to it, your life will get better and get better and get better in so many different ways. If you can get non-resistance to a certain type of fear doing this something, then you can do that thing without any problems. And you eventually become non-resistant to environments that you could never in your life imagine you being comfortable in. You're learning the art of surrender. And in doing so, you're also doing something which is really, really key, and that is you're tapping into your body, releasing those pockets of tension, releasing those holding patterns that you've had over your life. Maybe you've had, like I used to have a very tense throat. I used to muffle like this, I used to talk like that. I used to mumble a lot because I had a tense throat, because I've had tension in my neck because of some kind of emotion that I held there. I used to have tension in my stomach because I wanted to look slim, so I used to suck in my stomach a lot. And then I let go of that insecurity through the awakening, and now I can breathe so much easier. So you're letting go of these pockets of tension, and you're doing something called activating your release muscles. And this is probably one of the greatest things that's ever going to happen to you, is finding these release muscles, finding ways where you can go into situations that would normally scare you, and you can tap into your body, become aware of your body. It makes you so much more grounded. You can release. Instead of having your focus and awareness mostly held in your head, you can have it in your body instead. You can have more body awareness, which makes you way more present. It takes you out of your head. You're not thinking as much. These are just a few examples of what can happen when you surrender to those negative emotions. It will accelerate your awakening so fast, so rapidly. You'll see progress. Your life can be transformed in a matter of months when you activate these release muscles, when you surrender. So guys, because the awakening, it wants to simplify your life. It wants you to live a life of ease. When you're not resistant to things, you can live a life of ease. You can walk around like you're floating. It's the hard part, is the first part, where you've got to, surrendering to it, is stop fighting it. So you've got to allow yourself to feel those bad emotions. And that can be really hard. And it can be really scary. But once you let go, once you surrender, then you're free of them. They will just pass through your body. It's like in meditation, people often say you've got to be possessed by the present. You've got to allow the present in. Because this awakening process wants you guys to be graceful human beings. It wants you to live a life of ease. This is who your higher self is. And I bet you've seen flashes of it in your life. You've seen flashes where you've been that graceful, powerful, peaceful, non-resistant being. You've seen flashes of it. You must have seen flashes of your own inspiration coming through. Surrendering to all these negative aspects of yourself, allowing them to be there, allowing you to feel them, will get you much, much closer to that higher self, to connecting to that higher self, connecting to that source energy that is completely peaceful, completely happy. Because guys, a lot of the things that happen for our awakening, we always have lots of ideas in our head, lots of problems we think are in our head. But surrender, as Eckhart Tolle says, surrender, I've got it written here. Eckhart Tolle says, sometimes surrender means giving up trying to understand and become comfortable with not knowing. That's another really important part of awakening, guys, is being comfortable with not knowing. Because when this thing takes place, this big shock, this awakening happens, and so much is coming up to be processed. We have a lot of problems in our heads, many, many, many problems. But we need to start tapping into that trust, like I always say, that trust that you have, that faith that deep down things are actually going well. And I can tell you things are going well. You just need to tap into that trust. Trust that things are going well. Trust that things are going well. Get out of your head, go into your body, activate those release muscles, surrender to the negative emotions and feelings, and be comfortable with not knowing. With not knowing everything, not knowing the answer to everything that's going on. Because guys, literally, I think, back in 2017 when I was really struggling, I could write down about 1,000 problems. Things that I thought were wrong with myself, things that I wasn't happy with myself for, and literally, I cannot think of anything, of all the things I was worried about, that is still a problem today. Do you know why? Because you don't meet the problem at the level it's at, you rise above, you take yourself above the problem, and you realize there was no problem there at all. Once you surrender, it's like you're in a hot air balloon and you're letting go of the weights. You've got to surrender to the weight, but then it passes through it, let go, and you can fly much higher. All those problems that you may have now, once you surrender to these feelings, tap into it. And guys, it is scary at first. It's like when you were younger, when you were in the swimming pool and you're holding onto the sides, you're worried you're going to drown. It's very, very scary. And the more you fight it, the scarier it gets. The more you don't let go, the scarier the water seems. But when you eventually do just surrender, just embrace it, let go of the edge, you can realize you can start treading water. You realize you can float. And guys, this whole process is taking you into the waters. It's getting you out there. It's making you realize you can float. And in fact, you can swim. And the more you go, you find you can be a graceful swimmer. But it's initially letting go of that edge. And it can happen at any level. It could be the tiniest things of just, doing a presentation or going out and socializing with friends. Or it can be something huge like getting on stage and performing in front of thousands of people. It's all relative to us. Just like the awakening is all relative to each individual. And I'm just giving my information, I'm just giving my perspective, I'm just giving my stories, what I think. But surrender is the most important technique. Which brings me on. So guys, if you want to eliminate these concerns of yours, if you want to live a life with greater ease, to really get on board, yield to the process and accelerate your awakening, accelerate your progress, your self-development, your spiritual growth, you must learn to surrender. And sometimes you could be having a horrific day, you could be feeling horrible, reality looking scary, bleak, dark, and all you need to do is lie down on bed and let go and release all that tension out and just lie down and let it wash over you. Give in to the fear, give in to whatever emotion is, the jealousy, the rage, the anger. Give into it. Because your higher self is purging it out. It's already happening. You guys don't need to do anything. But let go and trust and surrender. So what happens now, whenever I get a bad emotion, back then, a couple of years ago, I would have been so scared. 3-4 years ago, I would be scared, I'd be fighting it, and it would last for weeks, maybe months. And I'd build up problems in my head, and I'd be telling other people, and they'd be like, really confused, like, what's this guy talking about? These little minute things. But now when I feel bad, guys, I trust it. I don't resist it. And if anything, I'm happy it's there because I know, something's going on at the moment inside. And it means I'm about to transcend it. It means I'm about to surrender to it. I'm going to learn why I felt that way. I'm going to learn lessons about myself and go to a whole nother level. And I want everyone else to level themselves up right now using this technique, being able to surrender. Thanks, guys. Blessings, blessings, blessings. I hope this video is useful and see you next time. Goodbye.